We started season 4 about 2 years ago now. The time delay has been really helpful for me and for the other writers in terms of getting this final season right.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
So the series finale of Killing Eve was abysmal. So bad, in fact, I felt compelled to make a whole video about it, which I have never done in the history of my television viewing. What hurt so much is that it had so much potential to become one of the greatest shows of all time, and they squandered it. For those who don't know, Killing Eve is a BBC television show about two women who face off on opposite sides of a war against a shadowy organization called the 12. One of these women is Eve, who works for MI5 and has an obsession with female assassins, which eventually leads her to working on a case of our other main character, Villanelle. Villanelle is fantastic. I mean, not as a person, she kills a lot of people who probably don't deserve it, but she's entertaining and fun as hell on top of being a badass assassin for the 12. Her energy and charisma is what initially drew me to the show. The dynamic of Eve and Villanelle is often described as a cat and mouse sort of setup, but as time goes on, there's less chase and more of an emotional push and pull between Eve and Villanelle. Their relationship dynamic is the entire crux of the show, because nobody actually knows what's going on with the 12 or what's going on, and we never learn. And for the first 2 seasons, it's amazing. There's this great chemistry between the two that just makes you want to see more of them together on screen, a lot of which is thanks to the great performances by Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer. Season 3 lags a bit, but it still has some interesting things in it, like Villanelle's solo episode with her family in Russia, which was one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Compared to the other two, it's not great, but everyone watching could still have hope that the setup of everything would pay off. And then season 4 came out, and episode by episode we lost every shred of hope we had. Season 4 felt like 90% filler until the writers suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and realized, we forgot the plot! And wrote the last 10 minutes of the finale in a half-awake stupor. The plot is muddled, it's thematically incohesive, and after all of that, we still don't know what the 12's deal is. If I were just watching this season without knowing it was the finale, I would have thought it was a middle season. Some character development, a smidge of plot, progression, but ultimately nothing conclusive narratively. Besides Villanelle's death, but we'll get to that. When I first went into this season, I was really hoping that it would begin where the last season had left off, with Villanelle and Eve on that bridge. How amazing would it have been to have a season with those two finally together united against one common enemy? Instead, they are inexplicably separated, with Villanelle having become a born-again Christian and Eve being a security agent who moonlights as a spy against the 12. Frankly, the first 2 episodes could have been condensed into one, if that. Sure, the Jesus Villanelle thing was funny, but it didn't serve any real plot purpose. We only got the occasional Christian imagery throughout the season with Villanelle, but that didn't really lead to anything. If they had wanted to give Villanelle an attempted redemption arc, they could have done that far more quickly and had her struggle with the ramifications that she failed throughout the rest of the season. Personally, I think it would have been faster and funnier if we'd gone about 5 2-minute clips interspersed throughout the first episode of Villanelle trying to be a good person and failing miserably. Sure, the first one she can try to be a born-again Christian and then kill the pastor and his daughter, but then we can see her try to do something else good. Like, she tries to join Greenpeace but somehow burns a forest down, or tries to donate a kidney and ends up killing the person somehow. I just think that would be better. Instead of dragging on with one plot, we could see Villanelle try and continuously fail. Maybe she gets more desperate each time until she's driven to kidnapping the therapist. It's quick and simple, and we'd save a lot of time by making it center around Villanelle's failures and the emotional results of that rather than her relationships with the people in her new church community. Eve also doesn't have much to do in these first 2 episodes besides establishing her new skills and showing that she's still hunting for the 12. Her scenes with Helene are great, but again, I think it could have fit into 1 episode. Though Eve's interactions with Helene are her most interesting scenes in the first half of the season for me, even they were pretty hit or miss, going from super intense to intensely embarrassing. Seriously, I had to stand up and start pacing when I got to the bathtub scene because I couldn't stand the awkwardness of it. Despite that though, I really liked Helene and I thought her actress did a fantastic job. I wish her death had been more interesting, but hey, at least we got some great Villanelle faces out of it. Also, I suppose now is as good a time as any to say I don't particularly care about Yusuf. I get that he serves to show how Eve got some of her new spy skills, but frankly he's too pervasive throughout the series, given how limited his character really is. I was hoping that he was secretly a 12 agent, subtly training Eve as a way to prepare her for becoming an assassin for the 12, but that doesn't happen and his character doesn't really go anywhere. And even though there is this justification of how Eve got so badass to be riding motorcycles and shooting Constantine in the hand, I feel like her character has lost a lot of what made her compelling. Her writing just seemed hollow to me, and it felt like the writers were trying to make her like any of the other assassins than to have her as a foil for them. This season, she doesn't even seem to have passion for the chase like previous ones. It's like it's some sort of chore she has to get done, some sort of mission, do or die, but I just don't see that spark in her writing. Episodes 3 and 4 were better, but that was mostly due to the fact that Villanelle and Eve were interacting with other interesting characters. Sandra Oh and Camille Khan have a great energy a lot of the time, and I think Helene shined through as a nuanced character. I wish she had gotten more screen time and we had learned more about her motivations, though. And I absolutely adored Villanelle and Caroline's interactions throughout these episodes. They play off each other so well, and the combination of Villanelle's almost childish sense of humor and Caroline's dry wit was great to watch. I wish we had gotten more of their interactions, though that might sour the finale even more, unfortunately. You know who I got nothing out of? Pam. I don't know why Pam exists. Now, don't get me wrong, I think her actress did a good job, and if this were a middle season, I would have grown to like her. But with the finite time we had in this final season, so much of it seemed wasted on random Pam scenes rather than developing our actual main characters and plot, and maybe learning what the 12 is? I mean, did we really need to see her budding romance with Hammer Boy? Did she really need to defy Constantine's every request only to faff around for the entire episode and then do it anyway? Her time could have been spent developing the 12 or one of the main characters. It seems like she was written for the sole purpose of killing Constantine, but that seems stupid because there are other established characters that could have done that. Given the right circumstances, Carolyn, Eve, or even Villanelle might have done it. Hell, you know what would have been a real gut punch? For Irina to have killed him. We see her murder what is effectively her stepdad. She joined the 12, and importantly, she's a character we actually know that has been in every season of the show, but instead she's relegated to one phone call. Speaking of characters lost but not forgotten by me, I'd like to touch on something I am extremely salty about. Geraldine.
Dear Geraldine, I think it's time you left.
Now, I will freely admit that I was certain that Geraldine was evil. I was going around telling my friends that there was no way this character was in season 3 just to be annoying and boring. She was insidious. She had to be part of the 12, maybe even the one who killed Kenny. I waited for any hint of her, and then something caught my attention. Fernanda, Laura's wife, said this.
Oh, but I found out why. Why? I find these letters from this woman. He's clearly been shacking up with her every time he's out of town. So you know what? I confronted him, and he walked out. Never came back.
And I was certain that the woman he was meeting was Geraldine. That Carolyn would get to the top of the 12 and realize it was her own daughter at the root of it all, just like how Constantine's daughter had joined the 12. Obviously, I was very wrong, and I regret ever thinking things were going to be okay, or make sense, or make me feel any form of satisfaction or happiness. I've been alive for a long time, I should know that by now, but sometimes we all have blind spots. Episodes 5 and 6 feel more like wheel spinning, besides the fact that Eve kidnaps a child, Villanelle gets shot with an arrow, and Helen gets murdered. Cool things for sure, but definitely 2 episodes that could have been condensed down into one, with Carolyn's background being a separate episode that also explains what the heck the 12 is doing now. Gunn is another thing that could be cut in my opinion. Yes, it's interesting to see Villanelle's obsessive behaviors that she's exhibited towards Eve reflected back on herself through Gunn, but episode 7 could have been spent with her and Eve actually formulating a plan against the 12 rather than being chased in the forest and weird things. I mean, I liked Gunn as a character, but again, if she had been in the middle season, I would have loved her. I would have thought, oh, it's so interesting. I love to see this inversion of roles, but we just had so little time to work with, and then you throw this in there. Constantine dies in episode 7, which I think was bound to happen. In fact, on my season 4 bingo card, I put Constantine's heart explodes, since he's already had a heart attack, and he's basically a walking ball of stress. This episode also has an annoying ending, since there's no tension that Eve is actually gonna die from Gunn. Though, I don't know, maybe that would have saved the finale. I just literally can't think of anything worse than the finale, but we're getting there. And then there's episode 8, our last hope that became our greatest disappointment. Let me tell you, I am a massive Game of Thrones fan who even has some of the collectible swords and things like that, and this series finale seemed worse to me than the Game of Thrones one. To start with, it's 90% filler, maybe 95%. I was watching it with my friend the night it dropped, and we kept checking the timestamp to see how much time we had left and freaking out about how much time was being wasted on tarot card readings and pee jokes. Sure, if this was episode 2 or 3, I would have been absolutely delighted. It was nice to see Villanelle and Eve interact with each other and add some levity to the show, but this was the series finale. Even when they kissed, a moment that so many fans were waiting for, I felt absolutely nothing, because I felt the specter of doom hanging over every moment. In fact, we were so done that when they kissed, we just started laughing hysterically because they hadn't washed their hands after peeing and now they were caressing each other's faces. With every passing second, we were more and more certain that it would be impossible to wrap up in a nice, neat, coherent way. And we were right. More right than we could have ever dreamed. I'll cut to the chase. Carolyn tells Villanelle and Eve that the 12 are on the boat for a lovely wedding cruise. Eve officiates a wedding because she's stereotyped as the officiant, and Villanelle goes in and kills the 12 pretty much instantly. This all happens in the space of like 3 minutes. She supposedly kills the 12, the most powerful crime syndicate in the world, in the space of minutes with no weapons or preparation, and we never even see their faces. What the hell? Now, I'm willing to believe that this actually was not the 12 and was actually some MLM retreat that Carolyn told Villanelle and Eve were the 12 to get them on the boat since it was so damn easy. But even if that was the case, it still means there is no resolution for the 12. You know, one of the biggest story points in the show? What, so Villanelle killed them all in the end? Who were they? What were they doing here? Oh well, at least Eve is upstairs doing the cha-cha slide while Villanelle kills these red shirts with champagne bottles. At least now the two of them can live happily ever after. Oh, wait. No, fuck you for having a little bit of happiness and hope. You know the best, most charismatic character in the show? The one so many people could tune in for? Yeah, we're gonna kill her now, and you're gonna watch her with your stupid little eyeballs. I mean, she was kind of gay and finally a little happy, so it was bound to happen. Despite the name of the show telling us who really should have died. And I know, oh, but it's a metaphor. A part of Eve did die with Villanelle. And to that I say, that's stupid and I hate it. Not you, person with the beautiful voice, the concept. I think it would have made so much more sense thematically for Eve to die rather than Villanelle. Eve is the one who has been going after the 12 all this time, even though Villanelle was staying out of it. Eve is the one with nothing left besides her all-consuming obsession for the 12 and Villanelle. Villanelle still has interests like fashion and movies, and she wants to be a better person and live a good life. Eve just wanted to end the 12 by any means necessary. All of the previous seasons of the show have shown Eve slowly chipping away her personal life in the pursuit of her fixation. It would have only made sense to see her destroyed by it, by her own self. And this is the incredibly frustrating part of season 4. They have so many roads to go down, so many plot threads to explore, and they basically stood still. Who killed Kenny? Who knows? What are the 12 doing? Who cares? Our questions are left unanswered, and the show is ended in the most slipshod way imaginable. I think partially because of the stupid spin-off, but I'm not watching that. I love Carolyn as a character, but after this, there's no way I'm devoting any more time or energy into this creation. If you look up the show, inevitably you'll find the word obsession. How it's basically the theme of the show. How even Villanelle's infatuation with each other is the driving force. How obsession can push those you love away and make you lose parts of yourself. Season 4 lets this theme die with a whimper. The finale said nothing interesting about the dangers of obsession that had been laid out across the previous seasons. In fact, the one character that was working through her obsession and trying to better herself was riddled with bullet and then drowned in the Thames. I think it was the Thames. I don't know England or anywhere. I suppose that could represent the fans that were obsessed with killing Eve and thought that they might get some level of satisfaction from the show they loved. Instead, all we got was a sinking feeling in our guts, along with a splash of rage when those two words came out on screen. The audacity. When I think of the Killing Eve series finale, I'm reminded of this Jenny Nicholson quote.
I think the worst thing a franchise ending can do is make you feel kind of stupid and embarrassed for being so excited about it in the first place.
And yeah, I do feel stupid and angry for even caring about something that ended in such a thoughtless way, in a show that disrespected its characters. And now I'm left with nothing but, I guess, just ranting about it on the internet. I guess I can go and binge watch Arcane for the 7th time as a palate cleanser. At least it hasn't disappointed me. Yet.
It's like candy. I can feel it when you walk. Even when you talk, it takes over me. You're so dandy. I wanna know, can you feel it too? Just like I do. This stuff is starting now. It's the same.